guys, Zyger here. Welcome back to another Awoken Devlog. Now today we're going to be trying to accomplish a couple of things. The main one being the biome generation. Now as you know, I've been wanting to do this for a while and I haven't really found a way of doing it effectively. So I'm going to be trying to sort of conquer that today. Probably won't be able to finish it, however I do want to make the majority of the biome generation for today. In addition to that, I want to make some few changes along the way. The first one being with the UI. I've seen a lot of comments saying that the UI is ugly, and in all honesty, I agree with it completely. I think the UI looks ugly and it needs to be changed, so I'm trying to do some of that today as well. That will depend on how much of the biome generation I get done. Now, I'll try and get the majority of the biome generation completed, and then I'll move into the UI. So there will be aspects of the biome generation that are not completed, however, I want to do as much of it as I can. So I'm going to quickly explain the general idea of how I want to make the biome generation first. Now, it's a very sort of scuffed idea because I've been trying to figure out a way of doing it and it's kind of difficult to do it in gamemaker. So I'm going to try and explain my method. It's definitely ineffective, therefore I am going to have to, outside of videos, try and figure out a different way and then change it along the way. Now, before I explain that, a lot of you have also suggested for me to use Unity. Now, I really do want to get into Unity, so I will be doing a video of me trying it out for the first time. Now, what I mean by the first time is, I've tried Unity before, not for long. I mean, I opened it up, saw that it was complicated and closed it. And the issue is not that I don't know the language of Unity, which is, I think it's C# or C++ or C, it's some type of C language. I actually know all three of those, so I don't think I'll have issue with that. The issue is the general layout of Unity I don't understand, so it might take me a while to get into. Therefore, I didn't want to make videos on it because I feel like it would be very boring and it wouldn't be as nice as this. But I do want to make a Unity video in the future, so that'll be coming in maybe the next week or the next couple of weeks. Anyway, so the kind of design I want to make for the biome generation is very simple. So what's going to happen is I'm going to create a sprite of a tree that will just be placed on the map or in the room, wherever you want. Now, I was originally going to make it so it generates randomly in the room, and I'll still do that, but that's basically the gist of it. You'll randomly have generated trees along the room of the map, or along the room. Then what happens is I will create an object that chooses a random number, so it basically will choose between different biomes. So for example, say I have biome 1 as just normal, and then biome 2 as autumn, and biome 3 as winter, and then whatnot and whatnot. It will choose one of those random biomes, and then what will happen is those trees that were placed will check that if they are collided with the biome generator object, then what will happen is whatever number that biome generator has chosen, that will be the sprite number. This basically means that if the biome decides it's number 1, all the sprites will change to, all the objects will change to sprite number 1, meaning that they are now, for example, winter or autumn, or depending on whatever I have for that. So for this to work, I need to actually firstly create trees. As you guys can see, I have these trees here that I created a while back. However, I want to make some trees that are bigger and closer. Now, to fit in with the theme, I'm going to make pine trees because all of these have been pine trees. Now that might change later as I develop the game and so let's start with that of me making some pine trees. Hi guys, I'm back. So I've created a few pine trees. I actually only created 3. However, outside of the video, I will create multiple more biomes. So the start one is just this basic pine tree. It's just nice and green. Then we have this nice autumn one, and then we have this winter one. So these are the 3 pine trees I've created. Now, as I said, I will create more. Leave suggestions for what type of other trees I should have. I was thinking of doing some maybe birch or oak ones later on as well. So this took quite a while because I'm not great at pixel art and I'm not really great at generally drawing pixel art things. So this took me a while, and the design will probably change as the devlog obviously, as this whole journey of Awoken I guess proceeds. So now I also created a folder called Biome, and I created the pine tree, and I'll show you the code and how it works. So I created 2 objects, the first one being the O pine tree, so this is the object, and then this O biome generation. To start off with the biome generation, it's actually invisible. I did set this sprite of an old play button that I had, just because I want to be able to see it when I place it and where it is on the map. Then I had a create event in which this is 2 lines of code and it's very simple. Basically, the random biome number will be a randomly generated number between 0 and 3. This is basically what it means. And then in the opine tree, what happens is, in the create event, image speed equals 0 because we don't want the animation of those 3 pine trees to cycle, as it will look very weird. And then if it collides with that object, as I shown above, the image index will actually equal whatever number this is. So say this is 0, this object will have the sprite number of 0. Basically meaning if it's 0, it's this. If it's 1, it's this. If it's 2, it's this, and whatnot. And I'll show you how it works, and I still need to fix it, because whenever I place this in the world, because it creates event, it sets on 1, so every single... what I mean is when this object is created, it decides what number it wants, and then whatever other object I add into a game, it has the same value, so I'm going to have to change that. And let's press play and I'll show you how it works real quick. So it's not the best, but what you'll notice, oh, never mind, I haven't made it visible yet. My bad, you can't actually see it. There we go. This is what it looks like in the world. So I added a few trees, and this is the biome object. So these trees in here will have a different biome, or it might be the same as the pine one, depends on which one it chooses, basically. So when I launch the game, as you can see, these are the pine trees. Now, let me just travel here. You can see that these ended up being the same, because that's just the one it's chose. And this time, when I launch it, they are like snowy. Now obviously this doesn't fit in with the background, because the background sprites are still the same biome. Now I will be changing that off video, because I do want to change the biome generation, because it's not that great in all honesty. I don't like the way it kind of functions right now. Let's try and get a different one. Will we be able to get an autumn one? What is going on? Oh, there we go. We finally got an autumn one, and that's what the autumn one looks like. So all the other objects work the same. As you can see, you can still pick stuff up and put them in your hand. Obviously helmets won't actually work, but like an egg or whatnot, right? Now I want to change the sort of UI. So this basically means, let me just like stand here a minute. This inventory at the bottom here that you can use the numbers to decide where you've got it selected and whatnot looks really ugly. Also, this doesn't look the best, but I will change this in another video because this actually takes a very long time to make work. But I'll try and change this, and I'll also try and change the HP and this mark. In addition to that, I will also want to add some maybe damage indicators. So if I quickly go into the enemy tab real quick, and I add myself an enemy, I should probably add gravity to these guys as well later on. There you go, added an enemy. What I'll show you right now is when you attack the enemy, this is what happens. So if I attack the enemy, there is these, as you can see, damage indicators, but they don't actually indicate how much damage you do. So this is something that I added in the game a very while back, and basically what it does is it just chooses a random sprite. So if I try and see where I did this to show you guys, there you go, damage indicators. So this is just 5, 10, 15 and 20, and it just chooses a random one of these, which is not what I want to do. So I'm going to try and do some of the UI stuff now. Hi guys, so I'm back, and I've only managed to do the damage indicators, so I won't be doing anything else in this video, only because this video is quite long and I've also spent a lot of time trying to figure out the biome stuff and this. So I'm going to kind of go through it so you guys can sort of use this in your own game. So to start off with, I created two sprites, the first one being the sprite font damage default and then the sprite font damage hurt. So this is just numbers 0 to 9, and you can draw them however you want. This is the sort of thing I did, and I did this in Photoshop just by creating sprites for each of the numbers. So after doing that, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to create a couple of objects. To start off with, you're going to need to create an ode damage numbers and an ode damage hurt. Now you can do this a different way and do it just in one object, however it doesn't work for the way I did my code. But I'm going to explain it. So for ode damage numbers, for create event, this is what you want to do. And then for step event, this is what you want to do. So this basically will make it move and get smaller and let more transparent when it reaches like 0. Then alarm 0 to equal die equals true. For the draw event, this is what you want to do. and this basically ensures it creates the font and then it draws it and makes sure it works. Now this bit line of code isn't actually needed, so you can go ahead and delete that. And then this is the collision with the same thing. So basically if this item or object collides with itself, it will move away from one another. So then you want to basically just do the same thing, just duplicate this. So duplicate the same object, but this time where it says var equals sprite, instead of s font damage default, change it to hurt. So I'm just going to go through them once again. So this is this create event, this is the step event, this is the alarm event, this is the draw event, and then this is the collision with itself event. So these objects are exactly the same, just the only thing that changes is the sprite. After this, we're going to need to actually create those indicators. So this will depend on wherever this is in your code. So to start off with, I have this item called O damage. Now this item in my game determines whether the player takes damage. So wherever in your code you have it that the player takes damage from an enemy, this is where you want to have this bit of code. So let's say this could be literally anywhere. So in your code it might be in the player event itself, where it has a statement which says like, if damage taken, do this. So if damage is taken, indicator will equal instance create layer, so it creates an instance at the same position of my player's X and player's Y at this layer. So I did it on the day and night cycle because it's the layer at the top of all my other layers. And then this is the item, so O damage hurt, because this is where the player is hurt. Now the O damage hurt.str will equals damage. So this basically means that the numbers will equal the damage that has been dealt. So this variable will also be dependent on where you set your enemy's damage. So for example, I set the enemy's damage here. However, it changes depending on whatever enemy it is. So for you, it might just be, I don't know, oh, enemy damage, and this might be set in your enemy code. Then you just need to set the scale to whatever you want, and this basically ensures that the Y scale is exactly the same as the X scale. So this number can be changed depending how big you want it. Then finally, you need to do the one where the player gets, where the player attacks someone. So I have a script for this, which is hit_target. Now this code, exactly the same as the previous one. The only things that change is the position where you want it. So mine is going to be the stats target object, so that depends. So this basically selects the targeted enemy. That's something that I did in my own code. And then O damage numbers, it's not going to be any more hurt, it's just going to be the normal one. And then the O damage str will equal the strength of the player. So if I click run, I'm going to quickly show you. And I know this was really confusing, but it's really not. Basically what it does is it creates an object called the damage indicator that will slowly fade, and the number of that damage indicator is dependent on the damage of the player and the damage of the enemy. So if you go into the game, what you'll notice is we have an enemy here. So I'm just going to lower him over here a little bit so we have a bit more room to see. If I hit him, you can see this damage indicator is thrown. So this is how much damage I'm doing currently. Now if he hits me, this is how much damage I take. And you can just kill it, obviously. And that's what it does. It like does a little fade and gets smaller. So that's basically all I've done. And I know it was confusing, so sorry that it's hard to follow through. There's plenty of tutorials though on damage indicators, and if you guys really want me to, I can make a specific video on that on a clean brand new gamemaker slate, so you can copy every bit of line. But that was basically it. Thank you guys so much for watching and for the recent support. And just to remind you, at 1,000 subscribers, I am going to be doing a giveaway. So there is a poll on my community tab on what thing you want me to give away. So go ahead and vote there, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!